Let's make some silver rings. Now. We'll start here with a bench pin and file, some half-round silver stock. We're actually going to file the end so that it's nice and flush so that we have a good measurement spot to start with. Alright, we got the silver stock marked with a scribe line, one end nice and flush. We're going to cut this with the jeweler saw now and get ready to bend our first ring blank around. Got 2 ring blanks cut, the lengths, because we're going to make a double wide ring. Get ready to bang them around the mandrel. Alright, got the ring blank right here, a soft face nylon hammer. Sometimes you use like a rawhide hammer too, works a little bit better. But we're going to start by placing it on the ring mandrel, hammer it around to start to get a curve. Start bringing it around. Usually, if the silver is annealed enough and nice and soft, I'll get it to about this point. And then spin it around and hold it and start hammering the rest around. We don't need to close it completely yet because we got a couple of tricks that we need to do to get it together. But that's the beginning. That's the beginning of the ring blank right there. Alright, to close the ring, I'm just going to hammer on top of it to ovalize it more. We don't need to keep it round because when we solder this, we're going to be able to put it back on the mandrel and round it out. I'll hammer that side down a little bit and just keep moving until you close it up. Alright, we've got a pretty close ring joint right there now. Got some Superior number 6 silver solder flux. I'm going to put a little bit down on this glass, which is pretty much coaster that I have, so that we can lay down some solder chips in there. Cleaned off some medium solder, which is the temperature range at which it's going to melt. We're only going to have 2 solder joints in this, so we'll clip out a couple little pieces of medium solder, really small, drop them in the flux. Cut more than you need because you drop these things all the time, like that. Alright, I'll run some flux on the ring. I'm going to try to just separate it a little bit so you get some in between inside the joint. You can flux the whole ring if you want. It can protect it from fire scale, which is bringing some of the copper out of the silver and kind of does some staining to it. It's just more flux that you have to clean off in the pickle. Got that one all taken care of. I'm going to pick up some of the solder chips with the flux brush. If you can see them. You won't probably be able to see them, but what I want to do is take them and I transfer them to my solder pick and then put a chip or 2 on the inside of the ring right over the joint where it's going to. For the torch, I'm using a Smith, just a acetylene torch with the atmospheric oxygen comes through the ports here on the torch tip. Pretty hot flame, pretty clean. Not as hot as actual oxyacetylene torch, but for a lot of this silver soldering, it's going to work out just fine. Just going to strike a flame. Not too much. Just want to have a little bit of a hiss to it. Get it warm. I'm going to start just warming. I'm going to watch the flux. A lot of times it'll bubble and just boil and just pop those pieces of solder right off of there, so you got to watch those. Helps to be able to get the torch underneath the piece because the solder is going to want to flow towards the heat. So once it gets close to soldering and melting point, going to move the torch to the bottom. You can see the flux starts to get clear here. We're going to make sure that we have our solder right over the joint. Alright, we've got to flow right into the joint, bring it all the way through. And check to make sure that that third arm isn't hot before we drop it in the pickle. What we're going to do is we're going to drop it in this pickle pot right here to clean things up. With the solder joint all the way through right here. Sorry about the fuzzy camera. And we'll put it on the, got this out of the pickle so it took all the oxidation off of it, pretty clean. And we'll throw it on the mandrel and hammer it around. Alright, we're going to hammer this thing down. Round it out. Saw face mallet so you don't stretch the metal too much. If I hammered this with a metal hammer, we would stretch the metal and change the size, which is not what we want to do. Alright, you can see the start of getting this back to round. Some more hammering. Flip it around. Since it's tapered, you don't want to put too much of a taper one side and hammer on it too much. Alright, here's our first band. No cleanup done to it yet. Just hammered round.